Good afternoon and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Charles Green and I am part of the marketing team here at Bellatrix Software. And firstly, a very warm welcome to today's webinar. Thank you all for taking the time out of your day to join me today. And just a brief introduction, at Bellatrix, I'm responsible for creating our thought leadership. So a lot of my job is about talking to the experts that we have here about Bellatrix and finding out about what are some of the trends that we see happening in discussions with our customers. And based on that information, we frequently publish reports on some of the key trends in software development, covering topics ranging from agile development to machine learning to blockchain. And today, the purpose of today's webinar is to bring together much of that research to explore the future of software development over the next 12 to 18 months, as well as giving you some concrete suggestions and advice for what you can do to prepare for the changes ahead. And it really has been a pretty incredible year over the past 12 months, really seeing recently the rise of Bitcoin to these incredible heights we're seeing in the news every day, to businesses looking at how they can use blockchain, and of course some of the really exciting advances in machine learning and artificial intelligence, which really have the potential to impact many industries. But just very quickly, for those of you not familiar with Bellatrix Software, we are a leading provider of software development services with expertise in product and mobile application development. We have development centers in Peru, Argentina, and Colombia, but the vast majority of our customers are based in the US and Canada. I should note also that we will be live tweeting throughout the webinar today with the hashtag PredictionsBSF. You can see that on the top right-hand side of the slide here. And so you can follow along with Twitter, but also please feel free to use the hashtag to ask any questions you may have. And you can also ask any questions using the chat box on the bottom right-hand side of your screen as well. And I'll do my best to take any questions as they come, but we also have some time at the end of the presentation as well. But without any further ado, I want to jump right into the content and to set the stage for what we've been seeing, during the past few months, over the past year, to kind of set the stage for what we're going to see is going to be happening in the future. And I think this year, what we have really seen is that there has been a change, really, with regard to the approach organizations are taking with technology. That in the past, some organizations had held back on decisions about some new technologies, but digital technologies are really now reinventing the rules of business and now changing what organizations aim to do and what they aim to achieve with technology. So in the past, there was a lot of attention, there was a lot of interest in these new technologies, but that didn't always play out with respect to real-world deployments. For example, we saw kind of security concerns, meaning that the spread of smart devices was slower than what some analysts had initially expected. Enterprises also took a similar wait and see approach to other new technologies such as blockchain and artificial intelligence. So for example, if we look back at Bellatrix's machine learning survey at the end of 2016, which we conducted, we found that just 12% of organizations had already started a machine learning initiative, while 40% were investigating, but they hadn't yet started. So there was this disjuncture between what organizations were thinking and what they were expecting, what they were planning to do, and what they were actually doing. And so also from the enterprise perspective, there was still some willingness to hold back on investment and even perhaps question the transformative power of some technologies. But what we're seeing coming to the end of 2017 and entering 2018 is that the theoretical benefits of these new technologies are rapidly giving way to real-world deployments. So in our predictions report, which we published just about a week ago, and which you can download from our website, we use the example of Alexa, the intelligent personal assistant developed by Amazon. And by some estimates, Amazon shipped more than 10 million Echo speakers which have Alexa installed in them in 2017. And some estimates may put that number significantly higher than that. And so linking that to other smart home devices, it's likely that hundreds of thousands, millions of Americans have gotten used to saying things like, Alexa, lower the thermostat to 68 degrees before they go to bed. So this is a great example of what analysts talk about being hyper-adoption, which is a way of describing the way in which consumers adopt new technologies. And with digital technologies, it's fundamentally different from what's happened in the past. So as the costs of new technologies come down and the benefits increase, so it changes consumer behavior, and consumers have higher expectations from the technology that they're using. They have higher expectations from the products and the services which they're getting from organizations, and that's then changing how they behave. And they're willing to adopt, or they want to adopt, new services and new technologies much faster than they have done in the past. And of course, what happens in the consumer space ripples over to what happens in the B2B space as well. So with the example, therefore, of Alexa, the potential of the Internet of Things to reshape daily life is really no longer so hard to grasp. And likewise, we see that in the enterprise domain as well. Costs are coming down, benefits are coming into focus. So 2018, characterized by digital technologies, really promises to be the year when deployments of cutting-edge technologies spreads throughout the marketplace. And early adopters can be joined by companies of all sizes, and that's going to have profound effects on the software development industry. So looking ahead to our specific predictions, we've come up with 3 main predictions based on the research which we've conducted here at Bellatrix. And the first prediction is with regard to agile development and digital transformation. Now, everyone is talking about digital transformation and becoming a digital enterprise. So I think it's important to examine and state very clearly exactly what we mean by this, and why becoming a digital organization today is so different from previous technology-focused initiatives that we saw in the past. And this brings to mind actually an interview that Bellatrix's president and co-founder Alex Robio did with Bloomberg Radio earlier this year. And he was asked in this interview, he was asked by the presenter, what the hell is digital? Isn't everyone already doing this? And actually the answer is no. Not every organization is doing this. Not every organization is yet really a digital enterprise. So as Alex explained in the interview, creating a digital organization goes much beyond simply investing more in technology. If you think about it, it's a difference between digital and what went before. It's the same as you can think about it as the difference between building a new shop window and building a new shop. So simply creating a new website or updating your mobile application is the equivalent of hiring the local builders to create an attractive storefront. So it's a good start, and you may get a few more customers, but it's not going to help you become a more nimble business or create new forms of value for your customers, which is really what a digital transformation initiative aims to do. So becoming a digital enterprise means bringing digital into everything you do. It's the strategy, it's the new business processes enabled by technology, which means executives can create the foundations of a digital company. And it's this focus rather than on the technology itself. And you can often you can see the companies which have achieved that or are on their way to achieving that because they are those which have achieved a very close and intimate relationship with their customers using technology. If you look at, for example, the analyst firm Forrester Research, for example, they define digital transformation as involving 4 main aspects. It's about creating new digital experiences, which kind of delight your customers. It's also about building digital operations. That's essentially that building the appropriate back-end systems which enables you to deliver those digital experiences. It's about building the digital ecosystems and the partnerships that you require to do that. And finally, it's all about digital innovation and staying ahead of your competition. So you may be asking, why is Agile so important here, and why is it that Agile will drive these digital transformation initiatives? And it's actually because implementing Agile means enterprises are much better positioned to rapidly create customer value because Agile provides the methodology with which you can iteratively develop products and services, and you can incorporate customer feedback into the development process, into the product development lifecycle. So it's no longer just a software methodology, but it's rather becoming a key approach and a key methodology for companies to get closer to their customers, change the culture of a company, and ultimately embed digital into their DNA, and ultimately then respond faster to their customers. So what should you do about this? Well, those enterprises eyeing digital transformation should look to Agile principles to help them. And just looking to the next slide, which should show you the key aspects of what you should be doing. So these are the principles which include at their core, for example, for development teams to focus on iterative improvements. So organizations can stay close to their customers. And as mentioned, Agile is no longer just a software methodology. And another fundamental lesson that we're seeing is for enterprises to avoid is to drive awareness of the potential of Agile, how and why it represents a different way of working. What are its benefits? What are the challenges of using it? It's a critical part of implementing and then scaling Agile. For example, one simple practice that one of our clients did was when they were in the process of implementing Agile, was every other week they invited 40 to 50 people to a room to give them an introduction to Scrum. And here they ran exercises to give really a hands-on introduction to the principles, how it works. So those individuals could then go back to their teams and talk about it. And that wasn't just for people in IT or in technology, but also for business employees as well, those in sales, or those in marketing. So really ensuring that the whole organization is aware of the potential of Agile. And also, it's important to mention that when implementing Agile, it can be tempting to look to kind of absolutes, such as kind of really wanting to rigidly define the methodology, trying to rigidly define the inputs, the roles, the time allotments, really trying to define very specifically what you're trying to do, and that can actually be risky, and it's what we refer to as the dark side of Agile, where you focus much more on the absolutes. And if you look at the Bellatrix blog, you can find a great blog all about the dark side of Agile, which we published just a couple of weeks ago. And there we contrasted that with those organizations that have been successful, and they've realized how important it is to create healthy values based on time, processes, teamwork, on quality. There's a focus on empowering individuals to make the most appropriate decision based on the needs and to do what is actually necessary. And just to give you an example, I think a great example of digital transformation and the impact of Agile development comes from the work that we've done with one of the largest banks in Latin America. Now, large banks are at the forefront of the discussion on digital transformation because they typically have large, complicated legacy IT systems which are difficult and expensive to modernize. But they're also faced with new and vibrant fintech competitors, which are changing people's expectations of financial service providers. So in this particular case, the Bellatrix team worked side by side with the employees of the bank in a long-term digital transformation initiative, addressing not just the bank's technology, but also their culture, their digital vision, and making sure that they had the right people and the right skills. And part of the transformation involved implementing Agile development first in its dedicated innovation center, and then scaling it to the whole organization. With the help of Agile, with the help of these new processes and a new organizational structure, the bank has been able to get products from the idea stage to being live on the market in just 14 weeks, which was dramatically faster than what they've been able to do in the past. And fortunately, customers have rapidly adopted these new products. They've resonated very well with their customers. And it's a great example of a digital transformation fundamentally changing how an organization operates, how it goes to market, how it engages with its stakeholders and customers, and most importantly, how it then creates new forms of value. With that, I want to move on to our second prediction, which is also very closely related to this, because it's Agile and DevOps are very closely related. And our second prediction is that organizations will rapidly adopt DevOps to become more customer focused. And here at Belatrix, we have seen that many more organizations are familiar with Agile development and creating the structures and the work processes necessary to develop software products at speed. But there are often remain challenges in then getting these new products live, the final step in the process. And this is really where DevOps comes into play. Now, I'm sure you're familiar with DevOps, but it basically involves creating cross-functional teams where the developers and the operations teams work side by side to get rid of some of the previous silos which were problematic in organizations. So you have developers working together with operations to make progress faster and in a more highly automated and systematic way in order to get products live faster and more reliably. And to put this into some kind of perspective, a few years ago, organizations would consider 3 or 4 releases a year to be normal, and the technology team would prepare well in advance, and all hands were on deck at the time of the release. But the world has changed. In a digital, mobile-first world, businesses can no longer wait several months to get new features or updates into the hands of their ever-demanding customers. So that's why they're needing to rapidly adopt DevOps to become more customer-focused. If you look, for example, at software development frequency in particular, if we look at some kind of research, for example, research conducted by Puppet, they highlighted that those IT teams, which are considered to be high performing, they deliver 46 times more frequent code deployments and have 440 times faster lead time from commit to deploy than their lower performing counterparts. So already in 2017, high performing technology organizations are deploying on demand multiple times a day. And this compares to once a week or once a month for low performing organizations. But despite these clear benefits and the ability then to use, be able to deploy faster and respond faster to your customers, actually, DevOps still hasn't reached its full potential. A 2016 survey, for example, conducted by CA Technologies, found that only 20% of organizations that have attempted to implement DevOps have fully deployed it. So we really expect to be a real significant push in the coming 12 to 18 months to adopt DevOps, to focus on getting the software frequency faster, more automated, and more reliable, to put that new software products into the hands of your customers as soon as possible. So what should you do about it in the next year? Well, we have a few key pieces of advice which we would provide to you. First and foremost, it's important that software development teams should view DevOps as a way of focusing on the customer. That should really be the driving point and the motivation for deploying DevOps, for implementing DevOps, because it enables teams to test ideas quickly, it enables you to incorporate feedback on products rapidly and calibrate software and applications. And fundamentally, this is the process which brings developers closer to your customers and allows a closer view to find out what they really like and what they really want to see you doing in the future. And what this means then, going to the next point, is that you can use DevOps to gradually change the culture of the organization and become more product-centric. And by this, I mean an organization which is close to the customer and values customer insights which feed into the product development process. So as mentioned, DevOps enables you to test your new ideas quickly, and you can see if they work, and if they fail, you can move on quickly. So ultimately, it means your organization is much more product-centric than it has been in the past. And finally, it's also really important to note that DevOps is a journey, not a destination. And this is because one of the biggest challenges and the biggest change that is required is the shift in the mindset required and the cultural change that DevOps involves. And this cultural change can often be amplified. As, some people can fear their jobs, fear for their jobs, because the extensive use of automation in DevOps. So it's really important to take the time to explain the impact and the ramifications to individuals whose jobs may change quite significantly from how they were in the past to how they are now working using automation much more extensively. So the companies that we've seen that have successfully made that change took the time to engage everyone who would be impacted and explain the benefits as well as the potential challenges. And moving on to our final prediction for 2018. And our final prediction focuses on blockchain, and that blockchain will lead to the emergence of fundamentally new business models. Now, the media and the press have been focusing more and more on blockchain, and particularly with regard to Bitcoin, and as I mentioned earlier at the start of the presentation, the huge surge in the value of Bitcoins over the past few months. But really, it's blockchain that has even more potential. Analysts have put it on a par with the creation of the internet for its disruptive potential. And it really is a core technology that is going to change how businesses operate. And here, what I mean by that is that blockchain is going to impact the fundamentals of business. So to put this in concrete terms, while we may have thought of organizations such as Airbnb and eBay and companies like that as disruptors in their industries, in a blockchain world, these organizations actually still represent a legacy form of business. And that is because they rely on a centralized network, or in other words, there's an exchange of data which occurs on a centralized server. But the next generation of startups and the next generation of businesses, which we're going to start seeing already emerging in 2018, will be businesses based on peer-to-peer exchange based on a blockchain network. And that is something which is a fundamentally different way of a business model, of constructing a business than what we've seen in the past. And alongside that, what we've seen is that as the technology matures, and it is maturing very fast, so it becomes simpler for individuals to rethink business models and designs and consider how to reimagine their business on a blockchain platform. So what should you do about it? Firstly, I think it's important to mention that simply hiring people with a Bitcoin or cryptocurrency experiences is unlikely to, in and of itself, to bring significant benefits. Much more important is to focus on the business change and not on the technology. So if you want to utilize blockchain, it's important to lay the groundwork by asking what it means for your business. How can you reconceptualize? How can you re-architect your business for a world where blockchain dominates? So for the discussions which you'll be having, the most important question you can ask, rather than talking about the technology, is how will blockchain change our business? And considering this question will provide a deeper grasp of the capabilities enabled by blockchain, and subsequently allow the team to design a business model that exploits these capabilities. And if you take that to its conclusion, asking the question now will allow for the creation of a new business model that positions the firm in the market to take full advantage of what a blockchain business has to offer in 2018 and beyond. So as you do that, it's important, as I mentioned, it's important to focus on the business ramifications of the change enabled by blockchain, and that's why we also say that your blockchain initiative should be led by a business executive rather than your IT department, to ensure that it's considering what it means for the overall business as well, because it's about the business model change. And can you envision your organization operating on a peer-to-peer model? And I think that actually brings, as mentioned here, looking to design a business model that exploits the capabilities of blockchain. So I think with that, that brings me to bring me close to the end of the formal part of the presentation, talking about the three, as mentioned, the three main predictions from Bellatrix, that organizations are going to use Agile for digital transformation. DevOps is going to play a key role in making organizations more customer-centric, and blockchain is going to lead to new business models. So it's really, in conclusion, clear that the world is changing, that digital technologies are changing the rules of business, and we're really excited about what the next year is going to bring as we look at, as we see how organizations are creating a digital strategy and creating a new digital culture which embeds digital through their DNA, which embeds everything they're doing in their organization, changing how they operate, changing how they go to market. And that's going to be really critical in order to keep competitive advantage, given that the speed of business, given the speed of technology is increasing faster and faster. So with that, I would like now to open up for questions. And as a reminder, you can ask a question either via Twitter using the hashtag or via the chat box on the bottom right-hand side of your screen. I'll just give it a couple minutes to see if any questions come in. And actually, I see that one question came in whilst I was talking. And that is regarding the point about DevOps, which is the question is, what are some of the practical steps that we can take in order to implement DevOps? Well, it's a great question, and there are clearly some specific techniques and tools that you can use to implement DevOps. There are tools, for example, such as Jenkins, if you want to help you develop and test continuously. There are other tools to review and to track code changes. There are other tools to help you automatically deploy code, for example. So there are a lot of tools which you can buy and implement to ensure that you are using automation to a much greater extent than you perhaps have done in the past. But investing in tools, investing in the tools and developing processes is only part of it. It's also critically important. What's also important is the required cultural change and a different way of working. And that's something that often which can be one of the hardest parts of making this change to DevOps, is really, as mentioned, the cultural change. So we have prepared a white paper. If you go to Bellatrix's website and you look through the white papers, you will find one with regard to DevOps, which examines how you can go about implementing DevOps and highlight some of the challenges, some of the tools, some recommendations. Also, I would mention that if you are struggling with the implementation of DevOps, then Bellatrix has put together a specialized DevOps lab, which combines our experts in DevOps who work with organizations to help them implement DevOps, helps them implement the artifacts necessary for DevOps. So looking outside your company walls to find expertise is also highly recommended for given that organizations such as Bellatrix have the experience in doing this. Okay, I'm looking to see if there are any further questions. And I see we don't have any further questions at this time, and we're right at the half-hour mark. So I think this is a good point to bring the presentation to a close. And I would like to say, very much thank you for everyone for joining the call today. It's been a great session. And as mentioned, if you have any follow-up questions that you would like to ask, then please do reach out to us. We'll be delighted to continue the conversation. If you would like to listen to a recording of the webinar, that will be available within the next 24 hours on our website or also on YouTube. And with that, I would like to say thanks once again for joining and wish everyone a very pleasant rest of the day.